at everything that I did. And winning was everything, and so important to me to be competitive and to be first in school or in my classes. And then I became a high school debater, and I wanted to be. And there's nothing I wanted more in life than to be the national debate champion. And one thing that I learned in life is that when you have these very, very high ambitions, uh, and you want to accomplish so much, and it's very few people can win, can be the first in the country in debate or whatever it might be. You end up losing a lot. You end up not reaching your goals, and you deal with a lot of defeat. And I experienced that throughout my life. It was inevitable. I wanted to be national debate championship. I wasn't. I wanted to get into Harvard and be first in my class. I didn't. I got to Michigan Law School. I wanted to be first in my class and be editor in chief of the Law Review. I didn't. I wanted to be to clerk on the Supreme Court. I don't know if Steve Marzen is on this call, but he did all those things. But defeat and loss is inevitable in life. And after I had those challenges and didn't succeed in those, I then went on and I did a lot of legal battles where again my goal and ambition was to change the world with my lawsuits and to have far-reaching impact. And one of those lawsuits involved Vietnamese boat people. I wanted to change the process for screening boat people in Hong Kong and Southeast Asia. And I brought this huge lawsuit, spearheaded it, and we made changes. We made significant changes, but it didn't ultimately have the revolutionary impact that I was looking for. I tried to change. I brought another lawsuit against the Hollywood television industry. I wanted to change the way the industry hired, and we won. We won some victories. We had a settlement. It was the biggest age discrimination settlement in history. But it wasn't enough for me because it didn't really achieve the goals that I set out to do, which was to change the way hiring was done and to end age discrimination in Hollywood, which it most certainly, did not do. And so, I faced a lot of these losses, but I'll tell you one thing about loss and defeat is that there's nothing more important in life really than not achieving your goals. I mean, I'm so grateful for the losses that I have suffered in life because those losses have built resilience and they've taught me lessons. And more than anything else, they've taught me, they've imbued in me one quality that is so important to when you counter loss, when you deal with loss, and that is persistence and tenacity. Because you can be knocked down, but you can also get up. And eventually, if you keep fighting, you really do have a chance to succeed. And the way that I've succeeded in the law and in life is by continuing to fight and never ever giving up. So that takes us to Lifeline. I actually did have a major victory, and I think some of you on the phone here on the call here are actually some clients of mine. I had a major victory in the Iraq hostage case. Won over time, literally a couple $100 million for my clients, and that gave me the ability to start Lifeline. And the idea of Lifeline for me was that I wasn't going to. I was going to be more in control. I wasn't in control of these lawsuits. I couldn't control what a judge was going to decide in a case. But with Lifeline, I was going to be doing tangible interventions, and I'd be able to control and ensure that the things that I wanted to do would get done. And the idea of Lifeline was really to have enormous revolutionary impact in the field. I wanted to deal with crises involved and the lack of rights to water, to energy, to basic necessities in life, and pave the way to really make substantial inroads in those problems and change the world for the better. Anything less was not adequate. So we can move to a couple of slides now. I want to talk a little bit about the achievements that we've had, which are substantial. Over the 19 years we've been operational, we have drilled 600 boreholes, created or rehabilitated 600 boreholes, provided clean water, access to clean water for over 300,000 people, profoundly improving their lives. Our other major initiative involves clean cooking, and we have produced and distributed over 650,000 fuel-saving stoves, which again has profoundly improved the lives of 3 million individuals who are cooking on open fires. So, those are substantial and big achievements, but honestly, they are my ambitions were always much greater than that. I want to talk for a moment about what we've done over the last year, which has been a very good year for Lifeline. We've done some things this year that we hadn't done in the past, and we've made some substantial progress. This year, we drilled and created and rehabilitated 55 boreholes, which is providing water for over 20,000 people. We also have for the first time got involved in the construction of piped water systems, where we're providing waters for entire communities, not just villages, but small trading posts and towns, where we provided water for 4,000, 3,000, 4,000 people through these pipe systems. And then another thing that we've been doing is we've been providing, a while ago, we launched a preventative maintenance program called Everflow, where the goal is to make sure that the water that is provided in these boreholes keeps flowing, because often, in this sector, you'll drill a borehole, it won't be properly cared for, it won't be properly maintained, and it ends up going into disuse, and the impact isn't there. So we've been signing up communities to this Everflow system, where we provide a preventative maintenance service. We have an 800 toll-free number. We promise to be there within 24 hours if a borehole goes down. But more importantly, we have sensors on these boreholes, so that we can tell when something is going wrong. We can react proactively. And in those communities that have signed up to Everflow, we've achieved a 99.7% what we call uptime rate, which means that 99.7% of the time water is flowing from those boreholes. So, that's been major progress for us. And then on the stove side, this last year, we did another 25,000 stoves, providing fuel saving solutions for 125,000 people, more or less. And the other thing we've done this year, which was a substantial step forward for us, is we got a grant with the World Food Program, and under that grant, we're basically we've basically been assigned to install fuel saving stoves in every school in Karamoja, every school that for which the World Food Program provides food in there. And so far, we've equipped 52 schools in Karamoja with institutional stoves. And by the way, Karamoja is one of the world's poorest regions. It is desolate. It is in a very arid region. It is a region that's been racked by violence. It is a region that has experienced one of the worst famines in human history about 40 years ago, where literally 20% of children under 5 lost their lives. So we're merely making a difference. One of the main incentives for children to go to school is the ability to get meals, and these institutional stoves play a vital role in that. So those are the achievements that we've had over the last year, and over our lifetime at Lifeline. And while I'm proud of those achievements, I feel good about those achievements. I think that we've done a lot, and we've made an impact on many lives. That progress has been largely, in my view, incremental. As I said, I want more. I want more for Lifeline, and I want to do more for this world before I leave this planet. And throughout this journey at Lifeline, I've dealt with tremendous challenges, and many setbacks, and I've also had many ideas and many initiatives that haven't achieved what we set out to achieve. But all along, it's just like my lawsuits. Bill Stein, if he's on this call, will tell you, and others. I just will not give up. I will not accept defeat, and I will keep on trying and looking for a different angle, a different way to get a win that I can personally feel happy with and feel like we've made the impact. And that's these losses and going through all of these have taught me a lot of things. And I've come up with a lot of, as I said, a lot of ideas. And recently, I have one that I think is going to be a game changer. And it's 20 years in the making. So I want to talk about the problem first. And that problem is the crisis of waterborne disease. 1.8 billion people around the world drink contaminated water. About 40% of them live in Africa. 1.5 million people, 1.5 million children, excuse me, die each year as a result of waterborne disease. Waterborne disease accounts for 4% of the global disease burden. So what are the causes of these problems? There are basically two, but only one is really talked about very much. And that one is the lack of access to a clean water source, to clean water infrastructure. People drink from stagnant pools and contaminated springs and water holes, swamps, and the water is filthy. And it's something that we've at Lifeline have spent 20 years trying to deal with. 1.1 billion people lack access to clean water. As I mentioned earlier, we provided 300,000 with access. But get this, most of the time, water that is clean when sourced is unsafe when consumed. So people may collect clean water, but by the time they drink it in their homes, it is contaminated. And that is about 2/3 of the time, right? So we're spending all this money getting people clean water, but at the end of the day, the water that they're drinking is contaminated. $10 billion a year is spent in Africa every single year to try and create clean water infrastructure. But at the end of the day, the water people are drinking is still contaminated. There are a number of reasons for that, but the prime culprit is, next slide, please, the yellow jerry can. This is the container that villagers in Africa use to carry water. And as you can see, it has at the top a small entry point where you would fill the water and pour water out from this. Why is it that has that small opening there? This is something that perplexed me for a long period of time, and then I found out the reason. There were studies that were done about 20, 30 years ago. And what those studies showed is that when you had a large opening in the jerry can, kids and people would put their dirty hands in it, and it would contaminate the jerry can. And so studies were done that showed that the water quality in containers that had smaller openings was actually better than the water quality in containers that had large openings. So they created a jerry can with smaller openings. But what is that? That is a two-edged sword. Because if the opening is so small that you can't put your hand in it and clean it, then it's going to stay dirty. What happens is that biofilm develops on the sides of the can, on the bottom of the cans, and that biofilm becomes a nesting ground for bacteria, for chloroforms, for E. coli. And so, as I said before, 2/3 of the time, more or less, water that is clean at the source is contaminated at the point of consumption because of the standard storage vessel, the standard vessel for transporting and storing water, which is the jerry can. So we have a little video that I'd like to show you, and then I'm going to tell you how we're going to address this problem going forward.
Anne ke kan luani alwer Florence Akoy one teach me Lula LC1 village, Achan P Paris, Ugwere sub-county, Utoke district. Lifeline binukele wa P, tetu wa P chi la bear, dang P wa tia mo la bear. Wanu ti ugwako doge da uchwe dogo ko doge tia bear. Ikara chona rik P pot pe, wanu wa P na ha, Roma ira rio nyo dikte, imaki wa kere jo kena rika chon cha kere dang, rio nyo gyo ko. Cha maro bere kon wa chol gi bo be bo ra pe utwa na apiga lele iyo te mata menu tia kele wa tuo pol la papat ento ipocha dung do bo jo lifeline metu chi wa pi o mi cha ne wan ti kera la dan ko wa tia yon da do ti mata pia chil kono ka peki moga titino awana ti ube ye tikite oro bero kere gi o mo pi eto nuti ka chel amejo leo gi o mo pi ni kaya mi pi chilu beri ye kaya chamo kwa yu karame lwoko chi nu doge ding chi petuni ye rom ti chiri cha bun kere u chwichi igweng nyo koyo metamni woki ye ento temo me woko tworo che pe kwa yere dusu ame otamani tworo no kono kelu tuo chala bara ma yi kere nyo typhoid gi ikomutina metia kwa ipachi ame kwa swanu tieni kita jo lifeline tiu ticha ber megengo wai tuo papan mekele wa pia chilcha kanu twere ka giromi wa jer kena ber me omu pia doge lacha me ochwalo chi wote loko ye chil unu ramo gengo tuo kene.
So we are going to answer this woman's plea. And in the process, we are hopefully, potentially going to create a game-changing solution for families, for people throughout sub-Saharan, not just in Uganda, but throughout sub-Saharan Africa and beyond. And that solution is right here. This is the Jerry Can 2.0, or we might call it the Dan Can. And the solution here is embarrassingly simple. So simple that I cannot believe that nobody has thought about this answer. And I've been perplexed about this problem for years, and I had never thought of this answer. And apparently nobody else has. But what we've done is we've created an opening at the bottom of the jerry can, a carve out in the bottom with a circular opening wide enough to put your hand through, and a durable, rugged cap that's watertight. So we created the can such that it can't sit on its bottom, because it'll be too unstable. So the only way you can't get your water, you can't put your hands in there here while the water is full, while the jerry can is full. The jerry can has to be empty. So this is only an opening for cleaning. You will pour the water from the top of the jerry can. Simple, but I think incredibly impactful, because now this will give women the opportunity to clean their jerry cans. And in doing that, we'll be able to reduce dramatically the problem of contaminated water and waterborne disease. Now, what is the cost of this? The cost is virtually zero. The incremental cost to produce the Dan Can or Jerry Can 2.0 is negligible at best. The only additional cost is the cost of the cap. Otherwise, it's what goes into this cost here is purely the cost of the plastic, and we don't change that. So so this new jerry can will not add anything to the price of a jerry can. And as I said, I believe this is going to have a potentially game-changing impact. I'm super excited about it. We are producing both jerry cans in China right now, 200 prototypes of each one. What I've just showed you is a 3D printout of the jerry cans, not the actual one. And those will be should be ready for shipping in January, and then we're going to start doing field testing in Uganda.
Dan,
Next question.
how much education will be needed to practically get everybody to understand and to like on a daily basis or whatever basis, the frequency to do the cleaning?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, People in Uganda, they're like anywhere else. They want to be clean. They do clean their dishes, for instance, and they will. There's going to be a number of people who will clean their jerry can on a regular basis. It probably doesn't have to be cleaned every day. Probably once a week would be sufficient. We will do trainings and educations, awareness exercises in the villages that we operate in the beginning. But I think that it's a pretty self-explanatory thing. And I don't know that the uptake is going to be, 100% or 95 or 90%. But if the uptake is 30%, if 20 or 30 or 40% of people are cleaning their jerry cans once a week, I mean, the impact is going to be enormous. I spoke with one of my colleagues who's very knowledgeable in this industry. He's a PhD from Yale, and I was talking to him about control group study, and he said, Dan, he does a lot of these studies. He says, Dan, I don't need to do a control group study for you to tell me that this jerry can idea is going to reduce water contamination. It's going to reduce the presence of bacteria. There's no question about it. We don't need a study to do that. We may need a study to see how much it reduces waterborne disease.
Does Lifeline have a patent on this?
Interesting that you mentioned that. The patent application was filed yesterday.
Dan, I have a comment.
Yes, Peace. Peace, I would like to know what you think of this, because you're from Uganda. You've been in the village. What do you think?
I think it's brilliant. It's a very brilliant idea. It's actually it brought back memories of my mother trying to ask us to clean it, and the lady who is describing it is coming from my village, and she's speaking a language I understand, and talking about the stones and putting in a straw to try and shake it with soap and clean it. This is brilliant. Because the jerry can is the most efficient way to carry the water. Otherwise, you're using a pot or a saucepan, and you can only carry so much. So having the jerry can is, I can't explain how indispensable it is, because that's your running tap in the house, essentially. So I really, I think this is brilliant. The comment I had was, is it possible to widen it?
It's going to be wider. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I've been working with a design company in England, actually. And the guy I've been dealing with there, he loved the idea. And so far, he's been doing all of this for free. All of the design work they've done for free. And they sent me the 3D model, and I told them two things. The first thing I told them is, this entry point is still a little bit too narrow. Can you make it wider? This is 75 millimeters. It's a little bit tricky, actually, but they're going to be making it 100 millimeters. So it will be wider. It's wide enough I can get my hand in there if I struggle. I think that my hand is generally bigger than the average woman's hand, but so it'll be easier for them. But no, we are going to make this. My first comment was to make this wider, and we're going to be doing that. The second thing is, I didn't like the top, because I don't want people to be able to stand this on its bottom and reach in from this side for the water. So what we're doing is we are taking this handle here is going to protrude another 50 or so, I don't know exactly how many millimeters, but so that you cannot stably put it on its backwards. I mean, on its upside down. You cannot, so that you won't be able to go in there and grab the water out with your hands.
That's great.
Thanks, Peace. I appreciate that insight.
You're welcome.
Others?
Hey, Dan, we have a couple of more questions from the audience. They need to ask, how long has this been in the making?
How long has what?
How long has the Dan can been in the making?
How long has it been in the making? So two parts to that. First, I had been thinking about the jerry can problem probably almost since I first went to the village. I mean, I was perplexed. I couldn't understand. My first thought was, how do people clean this thing? And then we got involved in hygiene and sanitation training, and there's certain mechanisms of cleaning, and none of it made sense to me. And so I sort of thought about the problem 20 years ago. And I thought of a couple different solutions. I didn't really understand at the time that the problem was people putting their hands in the can. I didn't understand why the container, why the entry point had to be so narrow. And I thought about various solutions to this problem of widening this. But then I found out that that wasn't a solution. But this revelation came to me the last time I was in Uganda, which was in I think it was in May, April, May. Was I there in May? I think it was in May. That's when I came up with this idea. And I spoke with one of the members of my staff who helped me with the initial sketches. And then I came back and started asking around, and got directed to a design company. I also have spoken to some researchers and some knowledgeable people, and I kept waiting for somebody to tell me that there's something wrong with the idea and it's not going to work. And nobody said that. Nobody could think of any reason why this was not a good idea.